Okay, so in making this video, I'm going to show a section of shots, break them down, and give a bit of a backstory for my motivation, and why it took me 15 years from concept to delivery.
Great Scott.
Was it really that long? Just keep in mind throughout, I started this journey to make this film back in 2010, and 15 years later, I decided to share it. The tendency we have is to always compare any CGI to the best there is, and by no means does this film have it.
No shit.
It's a fan film, right?
You're okay. I got your back.
It was just me, making this in my spare time, learning what needed to be done to get the shot achieved and move on. I did try my hardest to at least get one shot as close as possible to the original Transformers film made back in 2007, but even saying that sounds outrageous as I tried to compare them. Maybe I should have just color corrected it better. But anyhow, we got a lot of shots to get through, so let's do this! Okay, so upon finishing the film, I decided to cut it up into 10 episodes and release them individually, giving me the time to solely focus on one section at a time and get it in the best possible place, before ultimately releasing the full film after all episodes 1 to 10 were published. So at the end, I'll leave links to the full film and to the series. The choice I'll leave to you, should you decide to watch it. Okay, so I was born in the 80s. And I think the best films ever made came from that era. Back to the Future, Terminator, E.T., Indiana Jones, Star Wars, The Abyss, one of my favourites, and the list feels almost endless. And of course, I'm sure everyone watched Transformers, the movie.
You're goddamn right I did!
For as long as I can remember, I always loved the escapism of films and figured there is no excuse why you can't just go ahead and make one on your own, right? The will alone is enough, and I wanted to achieve this irrespective of what the film may be or honestly how it would be received. I was just fulfilling a childhood agreement with myself, but I did underestimate the time it would take to make a feature film and doing it on your own.
Much to learn, you still have.
I say on my own, my friends helped along the way being actors, but the rest was going to be up to me. When George Lucas released the special edition DVD box set back in 2004, the most enjoyable aspect for me was the bonus disc, an opportunity to learn the story of the making of Star Wars. And yes, I did recreate the light speed moment in my film.
Bumblebee out.
Now the people who made these films, who worked at ILM, George Lucas's VFX company, Industrial Light and Magic, were simply extraordinary people, hired to make the impossible possible, right? I was even curious enough to visit the premises and snap a pic with Yoda back when I visited in 2015. So this bonus disc and a look into what Star Wars was all about did provide me with a lot of inspiration, and the journey of making a film looked like a lot of fun. So fast forward a few years, I purchased a DSLR camera and learned the basics and started making short films and eventually persuading my friends to get involved along the way.
So we're just out on location.
As it turns out, it's really a fun process.
You are Mac and G, correct?
I'm not. I'm not.
No, me too.
And we never really did take it too seriously. Thanks for coming.
That's alright.
So am I here?
No worries. We're here.
So am I here?
Fusion's been stolen. It's out there in the open. Somebody wants to meet us here. Somebody wants to talk.
That's not possible. If someone would...
CIA, FBI, NSA.
FBI, CIA, NSA.
Follow my lead, play dumb, and find a way somehow to get this back.
Stay frosty.
Stay frosty.
Keep those glutes tensed.
So I made a few awful short films as a bit of a test and then figured I was ready to just try and make something that would set me up for a long period of time to keep me busy and out of trouble, and also to learn the creative tools along the way. So talking about Industrial Light and Magic earlier, when Michael Bay's Transformers film released back in 2007, the work ILM did blew me away. Starting back in 2012, I started to spend more time using 3D Studio Max. I'd used it on and off over the years, but I needed to improve. After learning how to get to know the interface better, I started to build the Bumblebee asset, following a specific tutorial. I was motivated to try and achieve a shot I'd seen the year before when Michael Bay's Transformers 3 came out. This was a real interest and inspiration for me to try and make something similar. But we'll come back to that later. I shot nearly all the film on green screen back in 2012 to give me the freedom to do whatever I wanted to do with it later. But firstly, I needed to expand on my basic plot idea from 2010. So I did what every filmmaker does. I made it up along the way. So let's get down to some of the shots.
Oh no.
So this shot is 100% CG.
No shit.
But no bad actors. And it was a lot more freeing. And if I'm honest, it was far easier to work with than the locked off cameras that we use in other parts of the film. Episode 6, for instance. Now, the original film was actually supposed to be just episode 6, the part of the film where we have the car chase. This was supposed to be a simple car chase, and after the bridge shot, it ends. Nice, short, simple.
It's all bullshit!
But I basically got carried away and kept adding new ideas and adding to the script. I mean, it was really good fun in my spare time, so I just kept going.
I am my people's savior.
I knew I wanted to show B running around and having him make a mad dash across the war zone to come to RC's aid. This started off as a mocap file like many of the shots for the characters did. For those who don't know, it's a digital file that stores the recorded movement data of an object or person, often a human actor captured using motion capture technology. And then I tweaked and changed the base file to my desired effect. The explosions in this scene were actually added right at the end of completing episode 1. I felt it was lacking and needed more energy. Fortunately, I was able to include the APC and the explosions relatively easily over the shots already made. The only issue was I needed to tell the audience where the APC arrived from, so the simple drilling for energons seemed like a good fit and worked to tie back later on where the bombs are planted around the planet and the explosion of Athena. I just ran out of time to show the other drill sites. I decided to also make a hard cut as I realised the animation to stop, transform and then drive off seemed a bit rubbish. Fortunately, I just cut a number of frames and I think it worked. So the same scene in one long take actually shows the car wipe out as many clone troopers as B can take out with the use of a very long drift. I won't lie, this took an absolute age to problem solve and I was always running out of computer memory within the scene, so you compromise, resim and move on. So coming back to that epic Transformers 3 ejection clip, this is my amateur attempt at making it. So first I needed reference, so I took a load of pictures of the bridge, built it in 3D, and then used a plugin called Thinking Particles to basically smash the bridge into smithereens when B collides with it. Once completed, I rendered out the layers and started to comp them together. Of course, we needed some explosion simulation and debris smoke from the bridge breaking apart. Once that was done, I thought I'd show you a quick 360 of the scene before we populate the shot back with all the layers. I love that shot so much, I thought I'd base a shot of my own on it. Again, remember, I'm not a 3D artist or do this professionally, so I was just playing around. But obviously, I could not use Shia LaBeouf in my film, so I needed an actor of my own, and my friend G lent me his shouting talents. Clearly my shot is different, but let's play them next to each other. You can tell I was ambitious all those years ago, and the shot really could do with being put in the hands of a professional, but it was stuck with the amateur making this video, and I needed to move on with the rest of the film. Now the lead up to the bridge ejection shot was a bit of a tricky one. I had a GoPro strapped to the back of my car and then simply lined the shot up by simulating a car being hit and rolling down the road. Using an old Xbox 360 depth sensor, I walked around my friend, created a crude 3D model of him, did a simple rig, and used him as a silhouette to get this particular shot of him looking out the back of the van. He was scanned so we could use him for different shots such as hanging out the side of the van. Now we had some fire and smoke simulation, and I think that was about it for that shot. So, Crimea. I actually got my mother to voice her for a bit of fun. I wanted to try and show more of the war on the ground close up. Biggest problem I had to overcome was how I was going to have a war with hundreds of different characters fighting each other. There was not a hope, cell and chance I would be able to do that, otherwise I'd still be making the film today. So I came up with the idea to have a clone army made by Darkstrike as the creator of the clone army.
Bullshit.
Okay, I got some inspiration from you know where.
Magnificent, aren't they?
But a clone army did exist in the Transformers universe, made by Starscream. I just changed it to Darkstrike, which would ultimately go up against the big giant robot, Omega Supreme. This particular shot I think almost broke my computer. The render engine I was using was Mental Ray for most of the film, and it was pretty memory restrictive and has been discontinued a long time ago now. So the tools I was using were slow, but stick with what you know, right, and move on. In this split screen we have an ambient occlusion pass on the left and various other passes on the right making the finished shot. Specular, shadow, beauty, lighting, etc. all comped into the final shot. I know some of the VFX in this film was a bit of a mixed bag.
No shit.
But I was pretty happy with how this all looked during this sequence. Nothing's perfect, right? Especially in episode 6 with my human elements added onto digital effects. It's worth noting the first 3 episodes or the first 30 minutes of the film I worked on were done last and took around 3 years to complete. The car chase scene, episode 6 and subsequently episode 7, I think took me on and off around 5 years. I was working on it in my spare time, and you have to have a life in between, right? And yes, in today's world with AI, you could probably type the results and receive it in a fraction of the time. I'm trying not to think about that. So, where we had my mother voice Crimea, I had my father voice Optimus. So this scene is pretty much the main motivational plot piece of the whole film. Prime telling B, complete the mission and you will earn the right, when you die, to see RC again in the afterlife, or the realm as it's known in the Transformers universe.
It's where all of us go. If we've earned our right, and the realm decides. Home.
So here our character Bumblebee is meeting the humans for the first time. You may notice for those who have seen the film, I ended up removing the smoke. In fact, I'm not sure why I even simulated and incorporated it in the first place. I just felt it was looking a bit messy by the end, so I deleted it. One of the tricky parts here was when we see our reflections on the actual front geometry, the chest of the bee, the front of the car. I obviously had to film the reverse shots and then reflect that back on the geometry, the bonnet of the car, just to add a little bit more realism into the scene.
Get the bazooka! The bazooka?
Okay, again, forgive the VFX in this shot. It's far from great, as with so many in this sequence, right?
No shit.
But the fun of just making the sequence takes over, so it didn't really bother me that much. Obviously we couldn't shoot down the actual road itself because that would be really dangerous, so in this scene Ben sourced the warehouse where we parked his work van and we did all of the van shots inside the warehouse. Obviously we were prop lacking and we didn't have a bazooka, so I improvised using wood fixed to a pistol, stuck some tracking points on to help in post-production so I could track the actual model of the rocket launcher, and of course I had to film back plates for the scene background and for the side-on reflection for the CG van and of course the rocket launcher model. I always find it amusing, you can see the wood when Tony fires, which always cracks me up, and here is the van replacement. Okay, quick sequence here, pretty self-explanatory with the videos around the screen, but we have the model falling using a mocap file, particle effects on the ground interaction, and replacing the floor. As this is a big robot, I wanted to be conscious to show the floor breaking apart with every step and fall in the film that takes place on Earth. So this shot was almost a full 180-degree track, and at the time was a bit of a tricky one with the tools I had. So to help, I stuck a big pole with tracking markers in the middle of the street.
Bullshit.
Okay, my dad stuck it down in the middle of the street and was very sharpish to leg it in case a car came. Waited for the road to be quiet and then walked around it filming. Obviously I could not be in the shot at the same time due to filming, so I later filmed myself and my friend doing a 180-degree turn. You might think we were on a turntable below us, but no, we simply spun around, balancing as best as we could. I would be lying if I said we only did one take. And yes, I could have done a better job strapping the green screen down. I actually used the green screen assets here to create this shot later on in the film also. So this model I actually ended up purchasing, but I had to completely re-rig the model to fit my biped requirements within 3D Studio Max. And of course I wanted to texture it differently. So you will notice all of the Autobots are looking very weathered and the Decepticons are looking clean. Well, the simple reason for this was the Decepticons have the majority of the energon left in the universe, and so use it to keep lovely and clean, and the Autobots use what they have left sparingly when needed, like when Prime helps restore B back to his original clean look. In fact, the decision was, when I originally made episode 6, the car chase sequence, it was supposed to be the main film, I did all of these shots that showed B perfectly clean and shiny, but I wanted him to look the same as the other Autobots at the start of the film, so this healing process was deliberate so I could tie the film together. But this whole sequence with Prime meeting B took one of my PCs around 8 months to render all of the shots, and also all of the talking with the lip movements was hand animated with Prime. Except for other characters like RC and Crimea, I had a bit of plugin help, but then spent extensive time refining it manually. It was so time consuming and it clearly was very tricky, but again I needed to move on to rendering, compositing and editing. Okay, I could go on and talk about other shots and how I made them, but your attention span is already likely stretched at this point, so I don't want to put you through any more pain watching how I made it. But for now, and to finish on, when I completed the majority of the film before COVID hit, I generally didn't feel it was worth putting it out there in the YouTube space. But in 2024, I was bored, so I updated various shots and thought, what the hell, upload it. At the very least, it might entertain someone, or better yet, inspire someone to make their own film. In 2010, I thought it would be easy. How wrong I was. But with the tools available as a creative filmmaker today, and how easy it is going to be sat at home doing it, you will likely make something far better than I ever did. And to those filmmakers, I wish you well.